Well, here's a tour of my formerly beautiful front yard that about 6-7 years ago had 170 roses, all en route. No, I think there's maybe 3 that were grafted. And a combination of drought, extreme water restrictions, and my refusal to water resulted in this area, which is now unbelievably squalid, being consumed by a now gone rose called Mermaid. Here's all the remains of Mermaid. Here's the trunk. The rose spanned easily 40 feet, and it kept me out of my own front yard for well over a year. And my friend Pat came over several weeks ago with a reciprocating saw. We lost a lot of blood, hauled a huge amount of branches to the local brush pile, and this weedy, horrific mess was revealed when Mermaid came down. But I'm very excited because I'm going to recreate the entire rose collection, both on this side of the driveway and over here, by burying water-wise container gardens, because they have proven to be an absolute game changer, and not only in terms of growing roses, period, and my vegetables, while dramatically slashing my water bill. Like last June, my total water bill was $1.35, even though this is an urban farm. But it's also letting me grow roses that supposedly can't grow in Florida. Here's an example. Here's the Ibra Perpetual La Reine, which is blooming yet again. Wonderful fragrance. Here's Fairmont Red, which I discovered in Fairmont Cemetery in Colorado, I believe in 1989, maybe 1990. Previous attempts to grow it here failed in the ground, but in a restricted drainage container like this early prototype, which is simply a tree pot with the drainage holes stuffed with used grocery bags, all of a sudden I can grow things. So I'm going to clear out this unspeakable squalor, cut down the palm tree, the weeds, and I'm going to bury probably about 150 roses in a combination of 15-gallon and 5-gallon water-wise container gardens. And the concept is simple. The drainage holes, instead of being on the bottom of a plastic container, are on the sides 3 inches from the bottom, and that's pretty much it. I'm using 5-gallon buckets, like here's one here. Take a 5-gallon bucket. I use a paddle bit to make the holes about 3 inches from the bottom on the sides. And that's the basic concept. I put in a combination of organic debris and homemade compost and Tampa sand to retain water. Plant the rose, and all of a sudden I have roses thriving with minimal water use, including varieties that can't grow here. Here's the stash of leaves the Neighborhood Association brings me every year to mulch with. I use 200 to 300 bags a year of oak leaves. Now here's something I want to share with folks. Check out this beautiful rose. Oh, here's my east bed going into full flower after being laid waste by the freeze. Duchesse de Brabant in the background there is toning down. There's my California poppies. First amaryllis of the year. Duchesse is winding down. I did quite a few pollinations on her. It's too soon to tell if they took. But here's what I wanted to show people. On the other side of the driveway is a specimen of David Austin's rose, Teasing Georgia, that had become a large gangly bush, and instead of cutting it back, I chose to pillarize it on rebar. And it is getting ready to go into a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spring flush. The number of buds is just astounding. Let's get a close-up. To me, the blooms have the look of Graham Thomas quite a bit, at least when they're fully open. When they're opening, they're a little bit more double. They've got the classic English form, but you can just see the remarkable number of buds. And I feel like in about 5 to 6 days, this pillar rose is going to be simply spectacular. Took a 10-foot piece of rebar, pounded it in the ground, about 3 feet down, and the branches were so stiff I couldn't use the usual pantyhose strips that many people use. I had to use power cords from appliances, etc. that I dumpster dived because I needed that much strength. But yet, just look at all these buds. This thing is going to be absolutely beautiful. And what's interesting is it's sending out a wave of new growth, which in turn will be trained to the rebar. So in about a year's time, this pillar rose ought to be absolutely magnificent. But it's already looking pretty doggone good right now. Here's my mailbox bed. Almost everything is scavenged from dumpsters, and I use white paint that I dumpster dive to try to tie everything together visually. So all the discordant elements seem to have made from the same material. This is Barfield White Climber, a thornless Mr. Rose been trying to identify for years. It's on its way out now. It was in full bloom a few weeks ago, but it sends out long, completely thornless shoots. Not a single thorn on this plant. Look at this. And what's interesting is in July, it sends out massive basil shoots that the following year can contain up to 150 blooms in one spike. Let's head back toward the house. Here's the mulch pile I'm using to help recreate the front rose garden that was destroyed by Mermaid. And it's so interesting to be able to actually see my house now. People used to comment that Mermaid had gotten so big, occupying the area, you simply couldn't see the house behind it. It was a little disheartening to see what was revealed by it coming down, this total overgrowth, but I learned a big lesson. It will grow here. I'd been told years ago that it wouldn't thrive here, but that person only grew it on the Fortuniana rootstock, and this specimen was own root. It's now trying to recover with new shoots, which I simply am not going to allow, so I'm going to spray it with my homemade version of Roundup called glyphosate, because I am not going to let this rose recolonize this area. Here's evidence of why I lost control of the yard. Is it turns out it had also been suckering like a blackberry, and that was one reason I couldn't get in from any of my gates, because I was simply getting ripped to death by these god-awful thorns. And here it is resuckering, so I'm going to have my hands filled trying to make sure this doggone thing is dead. But I will win. We'll chop back all this funk, and in about a year's time this should be a nice civilized collection of roses, mostly on their own roots, and all in buried, unseen, water-wise container gardens. Hope you enjoyed this little tour, folks. Oh, one more. Here's Dade City Red that my friend Pat discovered in Dade City, Florida. It's a red china, a classic red china smell, kind of a fruity rose smell. Own root, always in bloom, and just a sweet little charming rose for Central Florida. Have a good day, y'all. Bye-bye.